Sunday afternoon in Saxony. Welcome back to Altenberg for the final run of the 2025-2026 IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup season. Hello everybody, welcome back. I can't believe we're there already. It's mid-January and the season is done because, of course, the Olympics are coming at us over the horizon at a rate of knots. 17 sleds go in our second and final here in heat here in Altenberg. Martin Haven and Nathan Crumpton ready to watch the action on this track too tough to tame. NASCAR has its Darlington, its Pocono. We have Altenberg in Germany.
We do. This is one of the toughest courses in the business, as we've seen with a number of crashes today. Taking you down the course one final time here. Start record 5:01 from Team Francesco Friedrich. He will be here in possibly his final race of his storied career. Now here's where things get technical. 3 into 4 for this big sweeping double pressure Omega, then into 5, trying not to be too early there. Then you get this little labyrinth here at the top, the upper labyrinth we call it, where you get this alternating right, left, right combination. Then into 9. 9's a tricky corner. It gets a little lift there on the end. You try to avoid that, then enter in early on that left side to Kreisel. The big 360-degree corner, exit at that red flag, now into the lower labyrinth where you have this other combination of rights and lefts. Then you exit 14 here, up over the brow. 15, a left-hander setting you up for a big double pressure 16 right there. And then finally, curve 17, crossing the finish line, and where we have hopefully a good race on your hands.
We do have a good race on our hands, and look at the crowd who have come out for this. The final showdown in the World Cup between our German Goliaths. The youngest of the trio is Adam Amor with his crew off a second best start. They came down in third place, just 19 hundredths of a second. One mistake away from the medals. It's going to be a titanic battle. Here's the young pretender, and the old stagers are here on home ice for what might well be his very last World Cup start. Francesco Friedrich. Fastest start, 5:10, just 9 hundredths away from the all-time start record, and he came down with the lead at that stage. But later in the draw, Johannes Lochner. 700 slower at the start with his crew, but Hansi, who has been on fire in 2-man and 4-man all season, has a slender lead, just 5 hundredths of a second ahead of Francesco Friedrich, the all-time great. This will be, Lochner underlined again this morning, his last World Cup race. Friedrich, we're waiting to see. Amor, definitely not. Brad Hall, 35, same age as Lochner and Friedrich. Is he retiring, or does he go to the French Alps in 2030? So many questions still to be answered, not least of which is who actually gets to go to the Olympic Games. All of that jockeying for position has yet to be finalised, and that should be done by January 21st with the final start lists issued on January 31st. But for now, Friedrich's home crowd are watching him for the final time in the flesh. And that, Nathan, is why so many fans have come out today, because of France, because they want to see the GOAT one more time.
They do. The hometown hero, boy, from just around the corner, growing up into the man that we see today, who's been on top of the podium so many times. 20 global championships. That is Olympics and the World Championships combined, where he saw himself on top of the podium. And then, Martin, as you said, over 100 gold medals at the senior level here. That is World Cup and Global Championships combined, making a very compelling case for him to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Yeah, there's little question that he is setting standards that will remain in bobsledding for a long, long time to come. His 102nd 4-man World Cup race, 114 in 2-man as well, so 216 World Cup races. He has been an absolutely standout athlete and a great representative for the sport. And as you look around this track, he comes from Kielce, which is about a 15-minute drive away, 20 minutes maybe on a snowy day. He has become such a landmark in the sport. Now, Patrick Baumgartner and his crew crashed in the first heat. They do not go in the second, and so we are down to 17 sleds. Chris Horn will be the first of them to go away, and last will be Hansi Lochner. His final run, does it end in gold for France or Hansi? We'll wait and see. Seventh and final IBSF four-man World Cup race of the season. We're in Altenberg in Saxony. Chris Horn first off. And they're pointing at something in the track. The clock is running.
Yeah, but there's a cup on the track. A fan has dropped a cup onto the start ramp. They have to clear that off. That is debris that you do not want to hit. You don't want that to get trapped in front of your runners. Glad that they spotted that. Good eyes by the American crew.
Well, at least it wasn't a furry hat or a horn used by one of your teammates. Hello, Team USA. Hello, Team Canada. There was a history of that in Koenigsee, dropping stuff off the bridge at the start. Accidentally, obviously. And so we set again. The 60-second clock reset for Chris Horn. Now, they jogged this one off at the beginning. This is a damage limitation exercise. Get in, get down, get done.
Yes, this is a monster push crew, but they are not pushing it here. They are not going for the medals. This is Christopher Horn getting in at 5:96 there, and he is just trying to get down safely. He is trying to qualify for the Olympics. That is the modus operandi here for Christopher.
Now, the real problem is they will still be doing over 70 miles an hour on one of the most demanding drivers' tracks on the planet, and so he can't just take it easy. They won't have quite the speed that they might if they've really blitzed it off the top, but it is still really a tricky track. So absolute focus from Horn. He knows what the deal is. He's got to get that down clean.
Yeah, he's just a little offline, but I got to say it's a lot better than his first run that he took, which was really wild and very touch and go. This is cleaner. Still some skids, still some taps going nose down there, but he stays with the sled up, and he will cross the line after a tap 57-57, and the coaches are celebrating. Check mark, yes, sir.
All right, next stop, the Olympic Games. There's still a little bit of horse trading going on, but Horn needs to get it down, and that's all it was about. Hakeem Abdul-Sabor, Ryan Rager, and Caleb Furnell. If they ever do a more gentle, slower start, it'll be in a veterans race at some stage in the long, distant future.
Yeah, big waves there. Huge wave on that third pressure there, and Kreisel avoids getting the fourth, comes out with just a little flop, much better than the alternative, which is, of course, crashing, which we've seen here today. There's the exit out of 14, gets a big, long skid going into 15, but hey, he got it done.
Yeah, he got it done. All right, so the Olympics beckon for so many of these athletes. Jacob's calendar, he wants to have one good final run. The first one was loose. It was only a 12th best start, and again, you wonder what their coach, Emma Sapoulis, at the front of the sled there has done in terms of whether they've got big fat runners on for maximum speed or whether they've got something a little more conservative that gives the driver more control, because it's not about winning. This race is about finishing and being healthy and not busting the kit up.
That's right. Having talked to their coach there before the race, he's aiming for top 10, maybe top 8, getting kicked off 5:26 there at the start for his crew. Considerably behind that aspirational goal at the moment, sitting in 16th spot. They should be able to hold that, and maybe, if they have a good run here, earn back a few spots in the second run.
Let's see how we go down through the upper labyrinth, this three-corner complex. Every track's got to have one, and into corner 9. Nice exit, but a little skid, and straightens it up.
He does. Faster speed, 115 for the big four-man sled. Driving that bus down now into the lower labyrinth. Took a little tap there, 116.5 on the exit. Now that tricky corner 14. Nice, smoothly done. Ooh, a little bit of a skid there, but a wide lead as expected, and now crossing the finish line for Kalenda with a 55.74.
All right, came down 56.10 in the first heat, so that is a sizable improvement, 26 hundredths of a second. So, yeah, is how much of that is him and how much of that is the track, we will find out. Temperature is dropping. It hasn't been warm today, But the sun has been out.
It has been windy. We should note that. That does dry out that track. It takes off that sheen. Here, the shot at the start, that big 200+ kilogram sled. Then the exit off of 9. Little wobbly, having to flick the D-rings, try to keep those runners straight. Bit of a later entry into Kreisel. That's not the fastest line. Then the waves. You get those big oscillations there in the Kreisel. And down and done.
Decent exit off the Kreisel, but he was over 3/10 behind the next crew. This is rookie Kilian Ran making his first ever 4-man World Cup start today after his 2-man debut yesterday with Andre Tour. Jan-Rolf Hole joins them at 3 and Julian Matisse at 4. So this young driver, just 23.
Yep.
Thought he performed really well in the 2-man, and now in the 4-man as well. He was just 600s behind his much more experienced senior teammate Timo Rona, who comes up next.
Yes, and they had a 5:52 in the first heat. They're going to look to improve on that here. 5:57, they don't get it. So that is among the slowest, I think the slowest behind Christopher Horn in that very careful start that the Americans had. So they do have a lot of work cut out for them here. Already behind, second on the timesheet. Nice entry to 5. That was very smooth. Back by 1700ths of a second at the moment.
Had over a quarter of a second in hand over Jakobs Kalender of Latvia in the first heat. Not a bad run from 9 down to 10 into the Kreisel.
Better speed as well into Kreisel. There's that third pressure, avoids the fourth pressure, keeps it smooth. Yes, better speed. Gap now to 1200s. He's going to try and claw it back. Ooh, that's not going to help, and he's crashed. Again, a crash in corner 14. Sled falls into the corner. Oh, the violence. Oh, that's such a shame. Crashing through and crossing the finish line on their side, 57-51. Oh, and the track crew there sprinting up, trying to catch that sled so it doesn't go backwards and trap the crew in. One of the athletes trying to jump out there. Oh, such a dangerous situation.
Yep. Just a fraction late in 11-12, and that translates into being late into 13. So late exit out of 12, throws him onto the wrong side. He's not quite steering where he needs to in 13. Late and high, and that means he hits hard before 14, and that weight of humanity inside just rolls the sled over, flips it outside into the corner.
Yeah, that's what happens. You take that hit before 14, then you basically get knocked late. You're too early, you get knocked late, and then the sled rolls into the corner, and then boom, it hits all of your athletes right on the head as they enter. That minimum weight of the sled, 210 kilograms, over 450 pounds of that mass, just riding on top of you in just this violent car crash of an accident going down the hill. Not the first crash that we've seen today, Martin, and it does not get easier to watch.
And actually, that does not leave him in last place. He still came down, upside down, faster than Chris Horn by 600ths of a second.
Incredible.
So he's lost a spot to Jakobs Kalender, but only one. Now, they won't really care too much about that. And Timo Rona, who's waiting to go as well, will be just trying to keep himself focused. See the Swiss coaches there with the sled.
Yeah.
And we'll check the track. Sled is pulled up. The sled is okay, pretty much undamaged by that roll. Might not have done too much for the livery, but it'll be taken up and the crew will be examined by the doctors here at the trackside.
Yep, the crew will be examined by the doctors, the sleds will be examined by the mechanics, and yeah, you're right, sometimes you go through these really violent crashes, and the strong engineering that some of these sleds have, no issue at all, but then other times, we talked to the Canadian mechanic earlier today, after one of their sleds crashed, he looked at that sled, oh, crack here, broken there. He's going to spend a number of days and a lot of hours trying to fix the sled. So, yep, sometimes they do really well. Other times they require a lot of tender love and care.
Beautiful sunset here in the Osterzgebirge in the Sächsische Schweiz. Any region of Germany with any sign of a hill is the something or other Schweiz. Not particularly Swiss kind of feel here, but nevertheless, that's the way that works. So the sled is back and the crew will be thoroughly checked over.
Yep, sled at least in one piece. Again, though, the track crew will have to walk the track. just to make sure nothing came out of the sled, nothing's broken off of it, no shards of carbon or fiberglass or steel are littering the track, just to make sure that it is safe for everybody else. And there we go.
Yeah, one of the German crews there helping with the sled, and they're slushing in some of those gaps. What you don't want is the runners to start tramlining, and so that is basically a bucket of snow with some water in it. There are the boys. So all good. So Kilian Ran, Andre Tour, who were in the two-man yesterday, Janolf Hol, and Julian Matisse. Okay, so they've been there before, I'm sure, all of them. They always say you're not a real bobsledder until you've crashed. That's fine. I'm happy not to be a real bobsledder, but it is part of the sport. It's like being a racing driver. Crashes happen.
They do.
You know, they're not coming down here gently for tourism and having a look around. They are racing for every 100th that they can find. And as a result, sometimes the calculations go awry.
Yes, they do go awry. That is the nature of this very competitive and, yes, this very potentially violent sport. Having raced in my own handful of North America's Cup bobsled races, having been a brakeman in the back, it is already violent enough, hitting those G-forces, getting bobbled around in the sled, and it is just that many times worse with a crash, with a 200-plus kilogram sled on top of you.
Chris Woolley, the physical conditioning trainer and kind of general factotum, a man without portfolio in the Swiss team, which basically means whatever it is, it's his job. Looking after the sled at the front, waiting for Timo Rona and the crew to be given the 2-minute warning for a restart. And that slush that they're putting in, it doesn't just stay there as slush. Basically, it freezes almost on contact, so it fills the holes. We can't quite send a Zamboni down, but it's the next best thing. And it's a beautiful, cold night. Everybody who's topped up with Glühwein before the second heat, I think, will be pretty happy with that. And they're waiting to see this final race of the World Cup season, and the final race certainly for Johannes Lochner, and as we said, maybe two for Francesco Friedrich. So lots and lots and lots of fans here. It's a big sport in a small town, and that's so frequently the case. You think about racing in Lake Placid, same thing. That track has been there for decades. And Königssee in Bavaria, the same. Innsbruck, it's a much bigger city, but the track at Eagles has been part of that. A two-time Olympic venue, 64 and 76. And of course, St. Moritz, whatever else goes on, St. Moritz is renowned for not just the glamour, but for the bobsleigh track and the Cresta Run.
The crowd getting involved there, having a little wave action. Great to see that as well. As you mentioned, Martin, a lot of people coming out into this race here, cheering on the fans, cheering on the home team here. And we saw it on Friday. Also, lots of school children as well, too, really getting the community involved.
And it is a town that knows its sport. It's a region that knows its sport, and it's not just the local heroes. There's not tumbleweed when you come in. Everybody gets a rapturous reception. They love their sliding here. Bobsleigh, skeleton, and the other one that we never mention, luge, they're full of admiration for the athletes, and why wouldn't you be? It's such a tough business to be in, but it is absolutely fueled on passion and adrenaline, same as the fans, and you know, the odd beer as well, I suppose, probably for the fans. In the old days for the drivers and the brakemen as well, but I think probably particularly for the brakemen, if your driver's having a beer, you better have two.
That's right, and some of these athletes, they've certainly earned it today. And after this really tough season, a weather-affected season, rescheduling going on, the rush, the compressed race schedule because of the Olympics coming up, and just that added pressure of being an Olympic year, where you have all the expectations, all the rush, the hubbub, everything going into it, because everyone knows this is special. It's only once every 4 years, so everyone pulls out all the stops, and you can feel it in the start house, you can feel it with the athletes at the trackside. There is always something special about being an Olympic year.
And they'll all be waiting to just exhale now for a few days at least. Almost everybody will get a few days off before they then start to get back into that building up to the Olympic mindset, because the pressure cooker of the World Cup season so far, as you say, it's been relentless. The shortest Christmas New Year break probably that anybody can remember. Some athletes had 2 or 3 or 4 days off. Franz came here to his house and his wife and his kids for almost a whole week. But again, within all of that, still training most days.
And what a great training facility they have here, I should point that out. So we've talked about the track, beautiful track, great track crew, vying for the smoothest ice in the business of any artificially refrigerated track in the world. But off of the ice, they've got a brand new training facility, only a couple seasons old, just in the town of Altenberg. Great push facility, just world-class electronics and really nicely set up with Olympic weightlifting platforms, all sorts of machines, just trying to give the athletes the best opportunities they have to train here in Altenberg for World Cup or whatever other competition that they may have.
So here we go. We are counting down back to restarting the race. Timo Röner for Switzerland will get us back underway. Timo in 14th place after the first heat, and his teammate Kilian Ran, who just crashed in 13-14, currently lying in second place. So our current leader is Jakobs Kalender of Latvia. Joining Timo and back from a couple of years away from the sport, Cyril Bieri with Pascal Moser at 3, Mathieu Hersberger at 4. Just brushing off the spikes with wire brushes to make sure that there's no ice crystals stuck between those tiny little needle spikes about 3 millimeters long. And then stripping down to their Lycra speed suits.
Yep, trying to stay warm until the last minute, last second possible, trying to preserve that energy. You can even see it sometimes when they take off those pants or those jackets, the steam just emanating from these athletes, because they do try and get their muscles that fired up to be firing on all cylinders, so to speak, before they push that heavy 4-man bobsled.
Yeah, it's not just good for the energy, but it's good for avoiding injury as well, to keep that heat in the muscles, because then they're full of blood, and that's what helps them survive. So Timo Röner and crew get ready to start. Their advantage 0.4 of a second over Jakobs Kalender of Latvia.
And they hit the sled. Great synchronization off of the block. Starting with that push bar in goes Röner in the 2-man, 3-man, 4-man, down and in. Get that push bar in, guys. 5:37 to start their run and resume competition here in Altenberg in the final World Cup race of the season.
And Röner needs to finish this race to complete the 3rd sled for the Olympic Games for Switzerland. And if they do get that 3rd spot, it will be he that goes in it.
Yep, again, the season is not over, even though it is the end of the World Cup season. We have the Olympic Games coming up. Best speed, 115.8 going into Kreisel, coming out. Nice, smooth exit. That's a really clean one, 118.2. Ooh, little trouble there. Now into 14. Oh, and a skid as well. Playing with fire. Opens up a 6/10 of a second lead, but wow, that was touch and go.
6,300s up, becomes 6,400s at the line. 55.50. 2/10 quicker than his first heat. And as I said, for Matej Bahunek of the Czech Republic on the way down, ugly fast.
Yes, ugly fast. A tale of 2 runs. Top half looked tidy, quite neat, but then down below the Kreisel, lower half of the course, things got out of hand. That is 12, so really early on to 12. Boom, helmet clambers against the side of the cowling there. Yep. Head snaps back, and then the big long skid going down into 13. That is not the fast line there. Now here's 14, takes the tap before 14, but avoids the crash, which we had seen so many times this weekend. And then the long skid, 14 into 15.
Yeah, scrambling down at the bottom. So is the track starting to get faster as the temperature plummets? It might just be that clear skies overhead. What little heat there was in the day will evaporate fast. Next up, Jakob Mandelbauer of Austria with Diane Nikos-Bardi, Sebastian Mitra, and Daniel Berchler in the middle on the back row. He was the guy in the 2-man sled yesterday.
Yep, so they had the 8th fastest start in the first heat with a 5:24, now 5:30, so a little bit slower there. And they did not keep up with their push position after the first run. They had dropped to 13th place. So we'll see, can he actually take advantage of this extra start velocity as he comes through corner 4, the Omega, now 5, and now into the upper labyrinth with only 0.09 of a second.
Quite a wild ride down in the first heat. Finished 14th in yesterday's two-man race. Late flop off 9 and all the way on the wall down into the Kreisel.
Yep, big waves, huge waves. Whoa, first and second were massive, and then a big flop off and a skid, falling back behind now by 0.12 of a second.
Nose rising and falling is slowing the sled down in the Kreisel, and again out of 14, very skiddy.
Yeah, no grip, no control there. Coming up to the finish line here, crossing it, 56.09, dropping into second place, 0.46 back.
That was ugly and not fast, whereas Timo Rona was ugly and he kind of hung on to the speed a bit. So 56.09, they came down half a second faster in the first heat. Okay, so now you're in replay in the truck. Which one of those do you choose? Which 2 or 3 out of almost every mistake? This one then, the Kreisel. Big second pressure.
Almost inverted there on that second pressure. You really get up, there's cupping on the ice there, and he tested out almost the full limit of there, really driving on the edge, flopping off at the exit of Kreisel. Oh man, harrowing run there.
And when you're in the back with your head between your knees and you feel yourself going weightless, oh boy, that's when you start praying. Next up is Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein, Lawrence Lenher, Tim Kessler, and two-man brakeman David Schurfen on the back handles in the center there. Young Krantz, 23 years of age, had a good day yesterday in the two-man. He is a skilled driver there, not the fastest starting team, but they have got lots of potential.
They do, and a talented driver. 5:41, so improves on their start by 100th of a second. And then in the first heat, as I'd mentioned earlier, they improved by 4 positions, so it really does show the driving potential that Martin has.
Yeah, smooth driver. Oh, gets tapped away in 5.
Yep, and then the lead shrinking now, just 0.04 of a second. Needs to have a clean run here after that big hit before corner 5.
He had a handy advantage over Timo Rona of 0.13 of a second in the first heat. Second best speed. This sled is usually pretty quick.
It is only 0.08 of a second behind now. Can he keep it smooth? Middle entry there into 14. It takes a little tap out. Nothing disastrous though. Off of 15 into 16. Big height. Now the finish curve. Yes, he does take the lead. 55.69, just sneaking by at the last fraction of a second.
12th place, their best World Cup result ever for Liechtenstein in the 4-man. That is a massive result. 14th place, their best of the season in Innsbruck. That was their previous best, but Martin Krantz and the crew, top 12 guaranteed.
That is a great result for this really scrappy team. This is that exit of Omega, and boom, hits early before number 5. Yep, and those rear runners coming off of the ice. That's uncomfortable for the brakeman. Acknowledging the crowd though, well done, Martin Krantz, nicely done.
All right. So it is the battle of the small sliding nations. Liechtenstein lead, Romania next with Mihai Tentea, the driver, Andrei Nisa, Mihai Pacianu, and Georg Jordash. Pacianu, as you said, started his career in skeleton. Many World Cup starts and Europe Cup starts, and for the last 3 seasons has been competing with the bobsled team.
Yep, he made that transition successfully. That delicate entry now into the sled, 5:34, getting in and getting going into the green here. 3rd best velocity, getting off corner 2. Nice, clean, straight line here into 3. Good entry there, big waves. Controls the second one really well. Nicely done by this very technical driver, Tentea.
Yeah, he loves a track that you can really get your teeth into, because that helps him negate the start. Somebody else has dropped debris into the track.
Yeah, he avoids it though. 0.3 of a second lead. Best speed 116 going into Kreisel. Smooth exit on the way out. 118.1 second best speed. 0.3 of a second in his hand.
Well, this is great. He was only 0.07 ahead of Liechtenstein. He's added 0.3 of a second to that first heat advantage. Little skid from 14, but across the line, over 0.4 clear, 55.35.
That was a great run.
Yeah, 55.35. He came down 55.41 in the first heat. There's Georgetta Popescu in the yellow jacket, their teammate from the women's field.
Yeah, very well done by Tentea on this really demanding track here in Altenberg. There's the Kreisel. That's the second wave right there. Third wave taking it almost up to the roof, but coming out cleanly. Then the 11-12 transition. Nice, smooth entry onto 12, keeping the sled low. No drama.
That's another personal best. They're going to the Olympics. That is another personal best. Top 11 finish for Mihai Tentea. Comfortably their best of the season in the four-man competition.
Valuable points for them there.
So, 10 to go. Mate Behunek in 10th place, 74 hundredths off the lead, and some 15 hundredths off the sled in front of him. But if he can tidy up even one of the many skids, then he will be a lot quicker. Now, they are being held, I think, until that bit of paper or cup or flag or whatever it was is recovered from the chat. Yeah, Peter Fisher at the back there, who's the race director, saying, okay, sled back on its side, off the ice. Why? Because the longer it sits on the ice, the colder the runners get, and the colder the runners are, the longer it takes them to melt the surface of the ice and create the kind of micro layer of water that lubricates the trip down the track. Now, the hotter the runners are, the faster the sled will go. And here you are, your track crew recovering the debris. There it is, just up there. So poor fan who's dropped it, pointed to it, I'm sorry, it's just down here and I can't reach it.
Yeah, not the first time that we've seen someone drop debris there.
And you know what, to be honest, may well be nobody even remotely related there. It's a little plastic bag, it's blown in, or piece of paper, it's blown from somewhere. So well done to the track crew.
Yep, he got it. He gets an acknowledgement and a cheer from the crowd.
Come on, should be high fives all the way down, very least, surely.
You know, I remember years ago we had that fan, the paper fan, dropped into the track where Laura Dees hit it. She actually collided with it, and it threw her line off going through Kreisel.
There was somebody who dropped an air horn in the track in front of Lyndon Rush's four-man sled. Kenny Humphreys, his teammate, and yeah, that got run over. And there was also, and I think it's under Chris Spring's sled, somebody dropped a Canadian sort of, you know, tartan hat. And,
yeah, the hat.
Yeah, and that got sliced in two by the runners. So there's been previous with teammates not not deliberately, of course, but not necessarily advantaging their own team. Okay, so. Is this the final race of the year? Have we all got slight cabin fever now? This is turning into something a little bit bizarre. Okay, but again, for all the delays, the driver has to be absolutely in the zone now. Mate Behunek, Andre Rupp, Antonin Vijas, and in the center there with his head down, Michal Dobesh, the brakeman at 4. Brakes only ever used after the finish to slow the sled down on the outrun. All the rest of it is trying not to slow the sled down by doing as little driving, but in the right place as possible. This is the only time the crew accelerate the sled. After that, it's up to Mate to try and not disabuse gravity.
5:25 kicking off their run, getting started here for Behunek. Trying to have a cleaner run than he did on that first one. He came down pretty quickly, but boy, oh boy, was he playing with fire from top to bottom.
Yeah, only 800s up from the first heat as well. They have a fractionally faster start than their first heat, so that builds the advantage as well, out to 3/10.
Now the tricky corner 9, hung up a little bit on the end, takes a double tap, little bit sideways, gets in early, second best speed, still in the green with a considerable margin. Big height on the third pressure. Nice, well done on the exit.
And because the sun has gone and there's no cloud, he is racing a different track from how it was in the first heat and doing a much better job. 2500s up still, the gap is coming down, but he's got enough speed to take the lead and guarantee a top 10.
55.23. That is a solid run and an improvement off of his first run as well. So the Czech team will be in the lead as they salute the crowd. That looks like an Olympic berth to me if I had to guess.
Best of the season as well. Their first top 10 finish in four-man.
Well done to that crew. There's that flop off of corner 9, the little hit. works it back over before that entry to Kreisel. There are the waves, the second oscillation, third one really high there, but brought it out smoothly. Now that 11-12 transition, also well done. And the Czech team celebrating hard already.
And so they should. They got away with it in Altenberg, and they have their first top 10 of the finish. Ahead of them was Roman Heinrich of France. Now, he was 1500s up. Léon Lefebvre at 2, Antoine Rieu, the former Monegasque brakeman, at 3, and Nils Blairon at 4. Big Dorian Hauteville at the back, along with their coaches, watching this final four-man start of the World Cup season for l'Équipe Nationale de France.
And there they go, blasting off the line. Romain into the sled. 3 men down, yep, 5:25 as well, matching the start time from their first heat and into the lead. Slick black sled there for France, navigating 3, cleanly into 4, 2 big waves, and cleanly into 5 now as well.
Picking up the speed, he was 1500s up at the start. That has shrunk a fraction.
Yep, down to 1100s, now 9, the tricky corner. Takes a little tap, but it's a nice redirect. Gets in nice and early, and best speed, 116.9.
Good work from Roman Heinrich, a skilled, experienced driver. A little skid out of Kreisel, still top speed. Oh, look out! Very sideways, 13, 14.
A little sideways off of 14 as well there too. Shouldn't be too bad, should still manage to take the lead. Now exiting the finish curve, and yes, 55.02. 0.3 of a second, just over 3600ths of a lead. Well done to Roman Heinrich from France.
And again, his best result of this World Cup season, 2 10th place finishes, the last of which was in St. Moritz last week. They will be no worse than 9th place here.
Yep, there's that really tricky exit off of corner 9. Just a little tap to redirect the sled. No big drama, not a huge loss of speed. And then there inside the Kreisel, came in with the best speed so far and came out with the best speed as well. Here is the transition, 11 into 12. 12, a smooth line there before finishing his run.
And there's his little baby, Noélie, with his partner Nadia Pasternak, who slides for Switzerland. She's not in action this weekend because she's on babysitting duties. Cedric Follador next for Switzerland, with Omar Fergler at 2, Lauren Matossi at 3, Livio Matossi at 3, and Tim Annan at 4. And again, from the Engadine Valley, Celerina, his hometown, that's where the Olympia Bobsleigh run finishes in St. Moritz. 5:28 start.
Solid start, of 200ths of a second faster than in their first run, and they did improve 5 spots from their start to their finish, so this guy does know how to drive a track. Already behind in the red though, smooth line into 5. He's got some work to do if he wants to get that lead back. Now down to 300ths of a second deficit.
Was 300ths quicker than Heinrich over the first run. Can he draw level here? That's a good run out of 9. 200ths back, but slightly better speed than the French sled.
Yeah, this is going to be close. Nice smooth exit, and yes, he's into the green. Best speed, 119.5, 200ths of a second in the lead. Can he keep it into 14, that tricky corner? Light little brush, no big drama, 700ths of a second into the final corner combination, and across the finish line, 54.87. He takes the lead by 1800ths of a second.
Cedric Follador will finish no worse than 8th place as he takes the lead of the race. And for Follador, that is another big result. 8th place in Lillehammer, his best result before Christmas. But then he finished 6th in Winterberg, 7th in St. Moritz. So firm top 10 finisher for almost every 4-man race this season.
Yeah, it's so impressive seeing these big guys synchronizing their load there, all dropping in, then the brakemen pulling in those push bars. High fives from their competitors from France, and thumbs up.
Thumbs up from Cedric Follador. Nice work from Cedi. Next up, Markus Treichel of Austria with Sascha Stepan, Markus Sammer, and Christian Huber. And Sammer, of course, an Olympian with Benny Meyer. Looking to go again here with Markus Treichel, Sascha Stepan and Christian Huber. This is such an experienced pushing team, and fast as well. 6th best start, 5:21 in the first heat.
Yeah, that's a very competitive start there. Anytime you're up there in those numbers, 520s, that is moving, especially with such a heavy sled. So Austria getting underway. What do they do at the start here? They get a 5:13. Wow, great start.
That is much more where I was expecting them in the first heat, close to the Germans. And in fact, that start is in amongst where the Germans were in the first heat. And that's what we've seen all season from Tricol's boys. That first start was an anomaly, maybe a bit of wind. 4,800's up, big advantage over Follador.
Yeah, big lead, pretty clean lines here. He was a little early in a couple spots there. Now exiting 9, works it back over to the slider's left side. Third best speed though, so a little bit down in velocity, high on that exit there. Takes a little flop off now into this lower labyrinth.
Still 4/10 up and picking up speed. Second best velocity for Marcus Tricle. 3,600's up. He will have the lead at the line, but the gap is shrinking behind Cedric Follador. Across the line, 54.79, 7th place guaranteed. And again, that second start confirming that this crew is quick. 5:13, the second fastest start of the competition.
Yeah, it really is a testament to how strong these guys are, pushing that massive sled. The big Austrian sled making its way through the Kreisel here. Pretty flat on that second. Third, really high pressure there, but that's what some of these sleds need so they don't get picked up on a fourth pressure. That's what they need to come out smoothly. He gets hung up just a little bit, and then those left runners drop off just a tad, but great run overall.
So big smile on the face of Marcus Tricle. And they will head to Innsbruck to start their preparations for the games. And next up, Kim Jin-soo, the bronze medalist in the 4-man competition in Cortina. Could the Koreans spring a huge surprise in the games? Choi Byung-ju, Kim Sun-wook, and Lee Kyun-yu behind him.
And they had the third fastest start in the first heat with that 5:16. So this is a powerful Korean crew. All 4 men into the sled, 5:15 to start here. Well done.
All right, so their advantage of 100th over Marcus Tricle turns into a deficit of 100th as Tricle's crew outstarted them by 200ths in that second start.
Yeah, he's going to need to drive his way back into the lead, and he does. He's in the green by 100th of a second here at the top of the track. A little bit wonky there. Now exiting 9, that's a smooth exit off 9. One of the better ones that we've seen. Rewarded second fastest speed, 700ths of a second into the lead.
Yeah, Follador's Swiss sled fastest, but slams the wall out of the Kreisel. 11-12 is neat and tidy, skidding into 13. Shortcuts 14, got to be straight here. He's not.
He skids all the way down to 14. No, almost sideways through there. Oh, is he going to hang on or is he going to lose it? He loses it. 54.91 drops him 1100ths of a second back. Oh, it just fell away there at the end.
That big skid uphill out of 14 not only slowed them down, but put them into the gutter, turning into 15. And he almost hit the wall head on. He buries his head. He can't believe it.
The team still happy to get down with the runners down the right side of the sled up. Here's the push. Oh, his hand slips.
Yep.
Yeah, Kim's hand slipped off of that push bar.
Lots of drivers hold the push bar to avoid that, but here's the real speed sapper.
Yep.
Fully broadside uphill, and then almost hard onto the wall on the inside.
Yeah, whipped around under pressure, and then there you can see the sled skidding under pressure into 16.
Clouds of ice out. Well, big smiles from Ivo Danilevich. Boys, don't worry. Absolutely right. In the top 5, Taylor Austin of Canada, Mike, Evelyn, Keaton Brugling, Shaq Murray-Lawrence. They started 6th fastest with a 5:21, and Taylor drove them down into a top 5 position. In his previous best of the season, 7th place in race 2 in Lillehammer, 9th place in Winterberg. This could be a huge boost for the Canadians heading into the Olympics.
Yes, for the Maple Leafs here, getting started with a 5:19, so that start deficit already puts them in the red, and not 1 spot back, but 2 spots back. Taylor Austin is really going to have to drive his way into position if he's going to maintain his spot from the first heat.
Well, there's no question that Taylor and Pat Norton can both drive a sled, 2 or 4-man. They did improve their start from the first heat. A 21 down to 19 is within 1/10 of a second of the lead.
Yep, takes a little tap out of 9, works the sled over, only 200s back now, and the best speed, 117.3.
Good height on the final pressure of Kreisel, accelerating out now. 100th in it.
Yep.
Marcus Treichel, the leader still.
Yep, and takes a tap and a big long skid there, and then just offline going into the bottom of the track. Sled out of control, getting it back online. No, just falls back by 0.03 of a second.
Yeah, I think Treichel's crew knew what was happening when he had that big skid out of 14. It just bleeds all your speed away.
Yep. Just the narrowest of margins in this sport. He only had 100th at the start, and that error, costly error at the bottom, that long skid, that's what did him in.
He's still on the wider podium. It will be no worse than 6th place for Taylor Austin, his best 4-man result of the season. And just this one, it is uphill up to the camera here, and then drops down into 15. And again, 15, 16 was uncomfortable. Massive ice clouds coming out from the rear runners as it skids around, but the boys saluting the crowd. And we have 4 to go. Marcus Treichel of Austria, still the leader. 2-time winner on this track, Brad Hall. And there's been a little change. Ben Simons replaced by Leon Greenwood. They went the other way round in St. Moritz last week. Taylor Lawrence still at 3, Greg Cackett at 4.
Yep, so Ben the Bounce getting bounced out of the sled as Brad Hall's team gets underway here for their final run down this Altenberg track this season. 5:18 for their start here, and then also in the red. Such tight margins of racing here. Brad has to navigate his sled, and he's not straight there, wiggling all his way down to 3.
400s ahead of Treichel in the first heat, 500 slower than Treichel in the second start, so he's in the red, and that deficit grows a fraction. Is Marcus Treichel going to lead to the final 3?
Yeah, Brad here has to have a great bottom half of the track, trying to set it straight before Kreisel. 500s down, second best speed. He's got the opportunity. Can he execute on it?
Quicker than Treichel, and best speed again now. 300s back. If he's clean out of 14, this will be the lead for Brad Hall with 3 to go. He is clean out of 14, and this could be 1,200, 1,300ths of a second. You pick up so much speed here across the line. 54.71. Brad Hall is your new leader. 3 to go, and that felt good.
That was a great looking run by Brad Hall and his crew. Excellent driving. Hard to find big faults with that anywhere up and down the ice. Congratulations to Team GB and to Brad Hall. As you said, Martin, a 2-time winner on this track. Will he find the podium again today? He's got 3 Germans in front of him, so it's a tall order, but there's not much more he could do. These are some great driving lines, exhibited some great speed, excellent control of the sled. Nice line out of that difficult corner 14, just flicking the runners. You could see it there, trying to get that line into 15. Smiles from Brad Hall.
Last World Cup of the season, and he's beaten last year's silver medalist. There are still 3 to go. And the last all-German podium sweep was in the 2020 World Championships. Friedrichs gold, Lochner silver, bronze for Nico Walter. So, Adam Amor, 1900s off the lead, 1400s out of silver. He has been a medalist this season. A win in St. Moritz last time out in the 4-man gave him such a boost.
Yep, 5:11, great start there. Second fastest from the first heat, fastest so far that we've seen here in the second heat, going through the Omega corner and then into 5. Nice entry, very smooth sled here, opening up a big gap, almost 0.4 of a second.
Amor has matured so fast in the last 2 World Cup seasons, from being a rookie to being an absolute front runner. 4600s, it's not about the Brits, it's not about the Austrians, the Canadians or anybody else, it's about the Germans.
Yeah, bit of a flop and a skid there off of Kreisel. Now down into the lower labyrinth, exiting 14. Yeah, still about half a second in the bank here for Amor. He should take the lead comfortably. Will it be enough to upset any of his teammates?
Wow, 4/10 quicker than his first heat. That's a huge run, 54.35. Nobody has come down the track faster today. It was a good drive. The track is faster than the first heat. The leading run in the first heat was a 54.59. He's just come down 2600s quicker than the first run leader.
There we go. Great line through Kreisel, really controlling the waves well, better than maybe any other athlete we've seen so far. Comes off with that little skid, but keeps it going in the right direction. There it is through the tricky curve 12 combination, but a great line. Yes, and a number one, because that is where you are sitting. Team Amour, you are in the lead.
There he is. 2 to go. We will have a German winner. Do we get a German podium? And do we get a legend taking his 90th World Cup win? Francesco Friedrich with currently 139 gold medals in all competitions in his astonishing career.
Yeah, really an incredible career from Francesco Friedrich. 5:09. First athlete, first team we've seen in that 5.0s as he makes his way down his home course. A huge home crowd out here to support him. The hometown hero navigating through the Omega and now into 5 and the upper labyrinth.
500ths off the lead. He was 1400ths ahead of Amour, and he outstarted Amour, but the gap is single digits and low single digits, and Amour was faster into the Kreisel.
Yeah, Amour was faster. Now he's fallen behind. He's in the red by 300ths of a second and only the 6th best speed.
Francesco Friedrich is going behind Adam Amour. His last race potentially here on home ice is not going to be gold. It may not be silver. Amour leads with 1 to go.
Wow. Oh, wow. Falling back just by 1500ths of a second to his teammate.
First heat, 54.64. Second heat, 54.64. Absolutely nailed on consistency from France, but not enough to give the fans that last win in Altenberg.
Now there we see the load into the sled, getting the crew all in and down. Great speed, great start, great drive, just not quite as great as his younger teammate for the man who has done so much in the sport.
Well, there are the familiar colors that France has always worn and that all his fans wear. You'll see them all over the track. And now Johannes Lochner with Torsten Margis, Jörn Wenzel and Georg Fleischhauer. Their last World Cup race, Torsten and Hansi, guaranteed that this morning. Never again. Just one more four-man race after this. Can they end their World Cup career with gold?
All 4 men down into the sled. 5:16 starts. They're still in the green. 2nd best speed, 4th best velocity here. And they are navigating down this course. They were a little bit loose in that first run, but they found the quick lines. They found the best speed. Maybe just a very aggressive setup. Nice, perfect entry into 5 there. 700ths now in this upper labyrinth.
Lochner has made a habit of being loose and quick. He lets the sled do the work, drifts away from the wall, 800ths up, 2nd best speed. Amour was quickest into Kreisel. Hansi needs top speed now, gets it.
120.5, excellent speed, 1100ths in the bank now, through the tricky corner 14. Ooh, a big skid there though. Oh, and skidding through 15 as well.
It's going to be Amour or Lochner. Who takes it the line? It's Adam Amour, his 2nd four-man win in a row. He takes the final win of the season by 200ths of a second.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Lochner. Oh, doing so well, opening up a gap, and then just mistakes at the bottom of the track. Drops him down into the silver medal position, losing out to his younger teammate.
Torsten Margis gives him a tap.
Yeah,
Margis and Lochner, that's the last time you will see them in a sled in a World Cup race. And this mistake denied him his 18th World Cup win in four-man, instead of which he will get his 20th silver medal. Just bleeding away the time, but there's Georg Fleischauer. But for Hansi, the big one remains. What we do know, though, is that it's not just Lochner versus Friedrich. It is Lochner versus Friedrich versus Amor versus the rest of the world. And Adam Amor, winner in St. Moritz, the longest, fastest, most traditional of the European tracks, and winner in Francesco Friedrich's hometown. Boy, he is on a roll. Yoshi! Issam Amor closest to us, Alex Schaller at the back, getting Joshua Tascher to come in for that podium shot. There are your winners. 2 straight wins to round out the season for Adam Amor by a whisker from Hansi Lochner, Francesco Friedrich on the podium, and Brad Hall, Marcus Treichel and Taylor Austin rounding out the top 6, the wider podium. Kins slipped a little, Follador and Heinrich slipped a little, but actually they didn't, because it was Treichel that laid down that smoking second heat to climb by them all. Matti Behenik, 10th, his best result. Mihai Tentea, 11th, his best. 12th for Martin Krantz, his best as well. And you might say it was a thinner field. You can only race who showed up. And boy, they showed up here today. What a race to round out the World Cup season. And it is the first all-German podium sweep since the World Championships in 2020. Overall World Cup champion is Johannes Lochner. He also takes the Crystal Globe in the 2-man and the 4-man. Only his second 4-man Crystal Globe after becoming the World Cup champion in 2017-2018. And Francesco Friedrich takes the silver by 10 points from Adam Amor. 1 position in 1 race. Tight enough for you?
Compelling racing. Wow.
It is.
Wow.
This track always produces drama. Occasionally we get a crash, but inevitably we get close races. And so that is it. That is the end of the IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup season here in Altenberg. Thanks to Nathan Crumpton, to Anne van Nieuwenhuis for providing commentary insight this weekend. Thanks to Martin Verstraete and the rest of the crew in the truck. Thanks to TV Skyline for all the facilities. And again, thanks to the IBSF for bringing me out to the races. And most of all, thanks to you for watching. Friends, family, fans, we'll be back in Cortina d'Ampezzo for the Olympics. See you then.